People who have cheated before, why did you do it? Unbridled ego, unsatisfying regular sex life, and a girl who threw herself at me. I was an idiot, I acted like an asshole, and I will regret it the rest of my life. He cheated first, and I was young, petty, and thought revenge would make me feel better. Insecurity. I was always on the lookout for someone who would make me feel more desirable than the last. Once I grew up emotionally, I realized what a POS I was and the hurt it caused. Hard to live with TBH. Edit. Can I just make it clear I was not a serial adulterer? It was a youthful lack of judgment. SP basically whenever you start to consider cheating on your partner, give it a test wank first. 100% pure lust. That's it? I'm not proud of it. I kept dying. When you grow up being in turn neglected and told you're not good enough, validation is like a drug, and intimacy is the ultimate validation. So much therapy to undo this. Having a lot of fear of commitment and the finality of my decisions, but a lot of insecurity too. Wherever it stems from, my infidelity never felt good or like being a player or anything. It always felt like a cushion for the fear of being left by myself, losing a person who I invested everything of myself and my feelings into and seeing them go. It's like opening windows on the off chance you need to crawl out of one someday. But so often, like I did, you realize too late that you invested so much of yourself into them anyway, and when you get tossed out of that window, partner ended it and kicked me out in my case, you realize you're in a skyscraper. I hurt a lovely, wonderful person who I loved very much, wanted to build a life with, got a dog with, moved in with, moved to California with, and shared beautiful moments with, and who was just as afraid of abandonment as I was. The only difference is she chose me, and I couldn't see why. But even if I didn't like myself, I knew far too late that she was the best thing to happen to me in a long, long time, and she had to go even if it crushed me, and I begged her to stay. I only hope that she's happy, wherever she is, being the best thing to ever happen to somebody else who loves themselves enough to treat her the way she always deserved. We don't decide how we get shaped by life and its traumas and tragedies, but the simple truth is that when you want all of somebody's love, you need to give all of yours. It's a crazy fucking investment, a total leap of faith, but when it's real, it's worth every moment. My ex was done in the bedroom and even said they were no longer interested in me physically/sexually. I should have left at that point, but with kids and the financial hit of divorce I just looked to fulfill that need. I later divorced and it was a big financial hit, but oh my god, what a relief it was getting out. Getting out of an abusive relationship is where the true pleasure comes from. Because I was a fucking asshole 20-year-old who only thought of himself and getting some action. The high of it? 37 now. No cheating since then. Not me, but a guy friend cheated, and the reason he gave was that he loved his fiancée but they had very different sex drives. He also said that when he brought it up to her, the difference in their sex drives and the problems it would cause, she begged him not to leave and insisted it wouldn't be an issue. He told her it already was an issue and, as a last resort, she said she would understand if someday he felt the need to look elsewhere, just as long as she never found out. The girl admitted to saying all this but explained that 1. She would have said anything for them to stay together in that moment, she didn't think he'd actually be fucked up enough to cheat, and 2. She never imagined he would do it so soon. Because I chose a cowardly and easy path. Instead of going to therapy and ending my toxic relationship, I cheated on them with someone who I had convinced myself I was in love with, and loved me. Turns out, breaking up with someone is a lot less harmful to everyone involved than cheating. My partner cheated on me shortly after I had his baby. I wanted to leave but I convinced myself to stay. The logistics of having a baby and 24-hour care are challenging on your own. He refused to have sex with me. At some point someone got me in a weak spot. Somewhere between exhaustion, low self-esteem, and the sheer opportunity of having an orgasm were too strong for me. I'm deeply ashamed. Shortly after I picked myself up and the relationship ended. I should have left sooner. Someone telling you that you are beautiful, talented, and special after being invisible can feel like a drug. I don't expect sympathy from anyone for my actions. But I do have a lot of sympathy for others now. I think a lot of people do it out of insecurity. They want to feel desired. I will be honest, I have contemplated cheating in the past because I was no longer desired at the same extent he once showed me when we first started dating. I never have, but this was the biggest reason on why I almost did. I realized I was just insecure in myself and wanted the same level of desire I was once given. It's extremely sad. My wife wasn't around. The house was empty. I couldn't wait for her to get home, so I watched an episode without her knowing. Honey, if you're reading this, I'm so sorry. Because the relationship was done and I was already moving on emotionally. I just didn't care about her enough to care whether she was hurt or not. Honestly, in hindsight, I have zero idea why we were still together. It did make the eventual breakup a lot messy. I was young and it taught me an important lesson. If you're done, just be done and leave. There's no point in dragging it out. If you're ready to start looking for another relationship, start by ending the relationship you're already in. A perfect storm of poor impulse control, untreated mental illness, and boredom. People on the moral high ground will tell you not to cheat for reasons like morality and integrity. From the moral low ground, I can tell you that the lifelong guilt, shame, and remorse are not worth it. BC, my opponents were stupid enough to make me the banker in Monopoly. I wasn't able to communicate properly and thought perhaps it was greener on the other side. Wish I was more honest about my feelings and went to couples therapy. Because I was a young, attractive, horny alcoholic and thought I could get away with it and do whatever I wanted. I did not get away with it and it caused me years of regret and pain. Now that I'm older, I realize didn't know how to be in a healthy relationship because I was sexually abused by a neighbor as a child and looked at sex as the ultimate form of validation. I thought that sex and affection was love. Go to therapy, everyone. Go deal with your demons and shit. You'll be happier in the long run. Much love. I was the other man, but she told me specifically why. They were an influencer type power couple and they had a dead bedroom, no sex in 5 years, and then she found out he was cheating with a paralegal at his firm. They had a huge fight and he angrily told her that she should go find someone to sleep with, assuming she wouldn't. I ran into her the next day and just talked with her and she broke down. 90% of it initially had to do with me simply being kind to her when she was at a really low point. But she said it morphed into the fact that I treated her like a vibrant and attractive woman and met her needs. She compared it to drug addiction, to which she had no actual frame of reference, because she had been missing that for so long. They ultimately sorta worked things out, but every Saturday for 5 months she was at my house all afternoon, and sometimes on Sunday. I've never cheated on my husband nor would I ever cheat on him. However, after my college boyfriend and I broke up, I was convinced true love didn't exist. I never cheated on him, but he did on me. So after that I made sure I wasn't going to be hurt again. That all I needed: sex, love, and money. As long as they didn't meet, life was good. I would always cheat right away, so I never felt like I could be truly hurt by whoever I was with. Then I met my now husband. It was the weirdest thing. I came home and just knew he was the one. I broke it off with all my other flings and deleted my dating apps, etc. This was after the first date 8 years ago. I accepted that if I get hurt, it's a risk I'm willing to take because I just had a feeling that I found my soulmate. Anyways, I'm sure everyone says once a cheater always a cheater, but I really don't think that's true. I think hurt people and we could all benefit from therapy. Because The Sims is impossible without BB.move objects. I had internal issues that I never faced or didn't really know how to face. Sex and attention was validation. Even though my wife offered those things, it was never enough from her or anybody else. It was a bottomless desire for me to prove to myself I was wanted and important. I destroyed my marriage and more than a few friendships. I had to look inward and accept that all this bullshit that's happening is because I have a problem that is nobody else's fault, and learn how to love myself, and only then was I able to correct my behaviors. A ton of people in here talking about cheating before but saying they stopped now. I believe most of these individuals are true. But I'm surprised no one has admitted to cheating. ATM. Where y'all hiding? Immaturity, lack of respect for my partner, lack of self-control. Sex addiction and lack of self-control. There's only one thing worse than cheating on your spouse, and that is cheating on your barber. I did it once, and in return I got the worst cut in living memory. Never again. I felt unloved, unattractive, and unwanted. Then I met someone who made me feel all of those things. Not me, but my ex and my mother. They both cheated a lot, and for the same reasons. They were incredibly self-conscious and insecure. They didn't even have to really like the people they cheated with. They just craved the attention. When someone liked them and made them feel good, it gave them confidence. Saying no would have ended their confidence boost, and they were always too afraid to say no. I've watched them both cry their eyes out because they don't want to be cheating, but they felt completely out of control. They felt like horrible people, and rightly so. They were both people pleasers, always afraid to say no to anything and everything, and that escalated when anyone would come onto them. As far as I saw, they hated themselves so much that they felt they needed these outside sources to make them feel whole. Understanding why my ex cheated so much made me view him as a human. He's still my roommate and best friend, and he's currently in a wonderful relationship where he's been completely monogamous and hasn't cheated, and I'm very proud of him for working on himself. Cheating fucking sucks, it hurts. But trying to see it from a human perspective can sometimes take the pain away. Bipolar mania. I hurt two people I love. I hated myself for it. Still sometimes do, but I work hard to avoid being that me every day. I was continually looking for someone who would make me feel more attractive than the previous person. When I matured emotionally, I realized what a jerk I was and how much pain I inflicted. To be honest, it's difficult to live with. Not me, but my wife kind of did. It's a long story. She was sexting a guy left over from her account that she no longer does. Found out she had been sexting him for, like, 6 or 8 months. When I confronted her about it, she said a bunch of things that sounded like BS. Said I didn't make her feel wanted in a certain way, which was odd to me because I felt like we were pretty sexually active and I'm constantly telling her how pretty she was and how hot she is. That's the really short version, missing I'm sure a lot of context, but I'm at work and really kind of took this post as an opportunity to tell someone because I think about it all the time. What possibly was sexting this guy giving her that I don't? All they did was sext, it wasn't like they were having deep conversations. Also a bummer because she said she was into sexting him because she knew it wasn't real and admitted to not being into it with me at all. Y'all know how it feels to try sexting with your wife for years, always kind of knowing she's not really into it, only to find out she's super into it with a random person? It hurts to this day. Anyway, we're still together and we've worked it out. I apologized for snooping through her phone because I felt disgusting the entire time. Also vowed to myself I'd never go through her phone again, so there's honestly nothing stopping her from doing it again. I don't know. I love her and we have a great marriage, but it does suck that I have this to think about all the time. Also a bummer because I used to be into sexting just a bit when we're apart because it was fun and I'm really attracted to her, but could always tell she just kind of wanted to get it over with. Now I'll never be able to do that with her because I'll always think back to that experience. I also get to think about all the meanings behind her being into sexting with him and never me really. Which obviously leads to a bit of insecurity on my end about whether or not she's attracted to me. She says she is, but she's my fucking wife lol, of course she's going to say that, and if it's a lie, she's taking it to the grave I'm sure. Anyways, it was kind of nice getting this out honestly. Haven't talked to anyone about it but her. Parts of the story have been changed to protect my identity. I wrote this about an affair in 2020 to 2021. I was bartending one night. She walked into the bar. She was my perfect type. Tall, slender, dark hair, just gorgeous. My first thought was, please be single, and she sat down next to her husband. They were married about 6 months. He was a Wall Street banker. She was a nurse. I got to talking to them at the bar and we hit it off. Turns out the guy and I had some mutual friends and grew up near the same suburbs outside of Boston. We went to the same college, but I was older than him by 10 years. Same sports fans, etc. We became friends, all three of us. They kinda had a strange relationship. They literally, and I mean literally, didn't have more than 2 or 3 actual friends. I was one of them. We would do lots of things together, not sexual, just friends. She became pregnant and I became the godfather to her child. I was written in their will, and they told me if they both were to die, they wanted me to raise their kid. Both of their families are all fucked up. It's too long of a story to write here, but over the course of 8 years, she and I became close while her husband and I were cordial, but our friendship faded. She and I never cheated. It was an emotional thing. He was distant and dismissive with her feelings, so I kind of became the surrogate boyfriend. She and I would go out to dinner or do other things together, with her kid and without him, and he was fine with it. He even suggested I take his wife and kid on a vacation to Bahamas so he could get a break from being a dad. I loved her, but never crossed the line. Always hoped deep down she would see I was the better guy. Hoped that maybe someday she would leave him. During the summer of 2020 she tells me she's divorcing him. She's had enough. I have heard that before from her. She's claiming she's serious this time. I kind of brush it off. She's hanging out with me much more, it's COVID and people are working from home, she can't stand being in the house with him. She even stopped wearing their wedding ring. He would ask her about it and she would make up an excuse like she forgot to put it on. This went on for 3 weeks. I started to realize she was serious and she even had a lawyer lined up, but didn't start the proceedings yet. She felt it was bad timing with COVID. One morning she's working from home, but at my home because she needed space from her husband, and we get to talking. I initiated the talk about her actually divorcing, and what her post-divorce life might be like. I tell her there would be a line of guys around the block that would want to date her. I chuckle and say if you were single, I'd throw my hat into the ring to date you. She smiled and said that I would be the kind of guy she would want to date. That turned into more talking, and after a few days we are having frank discussions about dating each other after she's divorced. This went on for about 2 more weeks. We started to text/FaceTime and talk on the phone more, like on a daily basis. Physically we weren't cheating, but we were going down that road. One morning she's over before work. As a nurse she was going into the hospital some days, and we are talking some more, and I lean in. She leans in. We kiss. We were stone cold sober. It was passionate. Really hot. Lasted only a few minutes. She had to get to work. More talking about life after him and being free. It starts to feel like she's at the tipping point of divorcing. Problem is, her kid. She loves him. He's only 6 years old. Feels super guilty about divorcing her husband and ruining her son's life. She doesn't love her husband, but she loves me, and has told me so. Said she loved me for years and wished she knew sooner how I felt about her, and also loves her son. On paper, she has an amazing life. Her and her husband probably make $500,000 combined income. Net worth of $3 million. They drive a Range Rover. Own a very brownstone in Brooklyn Heights. They summer in the Hamptons. It's hard to just walk away from that. I do well enough. But I'm just a bartender. Not some Wall Street banker. I have always been smart with my money. I even own my own apartment and saved up $700,000 in an IRA over the years. I put away around $10,000 a year since I was 25 for retirement and fell into some money from my parents passing away. While going through the emotional affair and just kissing each other, it turned into more than just kissing. Do I feel bad? No, I was under the impression she was just waiting for COVID to end and then she was divorcing him. I'm sure lots of people like me have heard that. I knew her for 8 years, and she couldn't be lying to me. No way. The guilt of what we were doing became too much. The affair lasted about 2 months, and we slept with each other only a handful of times. I told her that I didn't want this. It was around Thanksgiving 2020. Get a divorce. Give me a call. That's how I left it. She texted me a bit and even visited me once mid-December 2020. We only talked a bit. She even told me then, the plan was to get a divorce. I told her to let me know when it happened. Then she ghosted me. I sent an email to her around Christmas. Never heard back. Tried calling her office a week later. Got voicemail. I waited. Weeks turned to months. Never heard a peep from her. We live in the same area of town, never saw her. I didn't push it. I figured with COVID still raging in 2021 that a divorce would be by summertime. I found out in April she was pregnant. Last time we had sex was around November, wasn't my kid. I never spoke to her. I'm not sure if it was planned or if he suspected and put a bun in the oven. It's December 2021 now, and while I know it's over, I'm still hurting over it. Again, I genuinely felt she was leaving him. I know from the outside looking in, this is easy to scoff over. I was her friend for years before we had an affair. We just had a deep, emotional friendship. I get the anger and hate towards people who are in affairs. But when you are the one in the affair, when you are with the person who you waited for your entire life, it's hard to just think, oh, I'll find someone else. I have dated my life and never met anyone like her. I'm not sure if I would ever again, and I just want some kind of closure. I want to just hear from her what happened. I know logically what happened. I was the side piece, and when I put my foot down, she was out. I never thought I would be the type of person to do that. But like I wrote before, it's hard when you meet someone that great in your life. If I was dating hundreds of awesome women, then whatever, but when you are in your mid-40s, the dating pool dwindles down, even for NYC bartenders. Tinder can be rough. You get bot accounts or lots of people who don't even compare to her. Well, that's my story. And hashtag X200B. Edited to add, it's 2 years later. Still haven't seen her. I saw her on the street. She looked well. She was with her 2-year-old daughter. I didn't approach her. She didn't see me. There's really nothing to say. Maybe in another life. I'm just assuming my ex hasn't commented, because he still has yet to learn what honesty and accountability are. I am maybe honest, good to the amount of people who look back and see it as a mistake. I kept being sent to jail all in that time. All my friends just kept buying the properties around me, and it all just got too much, so I admit I stole a few 50s from the box, and I'm still ashamed. Amy, if you're reading this, fuck you. You also cheated, yet you pulled me on it. I thought at the time the only thing wrong in the relationship was just that the sex was bad. Afterward I realized a lot of what made the sex bad was lack of attraction and poor communication. Broke up with her and never cheated again. I was selfish. I wasn't the one who cheated. but I know the reason. I didn't want to do anal.